Asterisk, hey everyone. Donald Trump invited Canada to the negotiating table for what he called the most important deal between the two countries in modern history. Mark Carney's response was 6 words. 6 words that permanently altered the relationship between the United States and Canada. We are not doing business with you. Canada didn't simply decline to talk, it struck back hard. Within 24 hours, Ottawa announced retaliatory measures on $47 billion in American exports, energy export restrictions targeting border states heading into winter, critical mineral controls cutting off American access to rare earth elements, and a formal diplomatic downgrade, pulling Canada's ambassador from Washington for the first time in the 158-year history of the bilateral relationship. Warren Buffett said what Carney demonstrated is the most powerful move in business or politics: the willingness to never sit down. I don't need you is the most frightening sentence any dealmaker can ever hear. But here's what nobody anticipated. Trump's reaction wasn't fury. It was something quieter, and according to people inside the room, far more alarming. It was panic, real, visible, strategic panic, because his entire playbook depends on the other side wanting a deal. And Carney just told him Canada doesn't want one. Asterisk, Trump's announcement came from the Rose Garden with a conciliatory tone. We're ready to work with our great Canadian partners. He proposed a sweeping grand bargain covering tariffs, energy, Arctic cooperation, border security, and trade. The media framed it as a positive development, but behind closed doors, the offer was calculated. Trump's advisors knew Canada had been redirecting its trade at an alarming pace. Every month without a deal, Canada was closing new agreements with the EU, the UK, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. The invitation wasn't built to produce a fair outcome. It was engineered to pause Canada's diversification. And then there were the preconditions. To sit down, Canada would have to pause all retaliatory tariffs while American tariffs stayed fully in place, suspend its ongoing negotiations with the EU, the UK, Japan, and Australia, accept national security as a legitimate basis for tariffs between NATO allies, and agree to an American set agenda. Canada would enter with its hands tied, its alternatives frozen, and its agenda controlled by the other side. The preconditions weren't negotiation terms, they were surrender terms dressed up as process. Asterisk, Carney read every precondition. His team analyzed every implication, and within 48 hours he stood at a press conference that lasted 4 minutes. The setting was deliberate. Not Parliament, but Canada's Department of Foreign Affairs headquarters. A foreign policy declaration, not a trade response. The United States has proposed comprehensive bilateral negotiations. I am here to explain why Canada will not be participating. 3 reasons. Reason 1. Trust. You cannot negotiate with a government that treats signed agreements as optional. We signed USMCA, a ratified, legally binding treaty. This same administration violated its terms without consultation, without warning, without legal foundation. The pattern is established. Any agreement will be honored only until it stops being convenient. We will not participate in that exercise. Reason 2. Sovereignty. The preconditions require us to pause our retaliatory measures while American tariffs remain. Suspend negotiations with the EU, the UK, Japan, and Australia. Operate on an agenda set entirely by the American side. These are not the conditions of a negotiation between equals, these are the conditions of a capitulation. And Canada does not capitulate. Reason 3. Independence. Canada's future does not require American approval. In the past 12 months, we have signed or advanced agreements with the EU, the UK, Japan, South Korea, Australia, India, and ASEAN. Our diversification is not a bargaining chip. It is a permanent, structural transformation. We will not pause it to enter a process designed to slow our momentum. Then the final line, Carney paused. We wish the United States well. We are not negotiating with it. He walked off and took no questions. For minutes. 3 reasons. 6 words. Done. Asterisk, 3 full seconds of silence before the press room erupted. A refusal to negotiate is more hostile than a counteroffer, more hostile than a walkout, more hostile even than retaliatory tariffs. Because all of those still acknowledge the other side's relevance. A refusal says something far worse. You are not worth our time. For a president who built his identity around being the ultimate dealmaker, that is the deepest possible blow. Trump didn't respond for over 3 hours. Aides described the White House as disoriented. They had prepared for counteroffers, rejections, walkouts, full retaliation. They had not prepared for Canada simply refusing to engage. Then the strategic reality sank in. Tariffs work as leverage only when the other side wants them lifted. If Canada has stopped caring, the tariffs stop being leverage and start being damage inflicted on American consumers. When Trump finally responded, his post cycled without landing bravado. Canada will come crawling back. Grievance. Carney is making a catastrophic mistake. Threats. We have options. Confusion. Why won't Canada negotiate? His own advisors admitted privately they never gamed this out. We built the entire strategy around getting them to the table. If they've decided the pain is preferable to negotiating with us, we have no strategy left. Asterisk, and then Canada fired back. Within 24 hours, Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs drew a line never drawn before. The measures we are announcing are not negotiating tactics. They are permanent adjustments to Canada's economic and diplomatic architecture, not leverage policy. First, retaliatory tariffs targeting Republican-heavy states. Iowa agriculture, Alabama manufacturing, Texas energy equipment, Wisconsin dairy, $47 billion in American exports, subject to permanent counter-tariff. Second, energy export restrictions. Electricity to New York, New England, and the Pacific Northwest, cut 15 to 20%. Energy costs in border states projected to rise 8 to 14%. A 15% cut doesn't sound dramatic until a family in Vermont sees their heating bill nearly double heading into winter. Third, critical mineral controls. The United States does not qualify as an allied nation for Canadian strategic resource policy. American defense contractors and tech companies now face supply chain disruptions for materials they assumed would always flow freely. Fourth, the diplomatic downgrade. Canada recalled its ambassador. For 158 years, both nations maintained an unbroken relations through 2 world wars and the Cold War. That record just ended with one quiet, deliberate signal. We are done talking. Fifth, trade diversification, acceleration. Deals expected in 18 to 24 months pushed to close within 6 to 9. Canada isn't just refusing to negotiate. It is replacing the United States methodically and permanently. Asterisk, Warren Buffett explained why this is the most powerful move in negotiation. What Carney did is something most people are psychologically incapable of. He walked away, not from a bad deal, but from the very concept of a deal. The most powerful position in any negotiation is the genuine willingness to walk away, not the bluff, the authentic belief that you are better off with no deal at all. But Carney went further. Walking away means you were at the table and left. Carney never walked in. He looked at the invitation, the preconditions, the broken agreements, and said no thank you, we have other plans. Walking away says this deal isn't good enough. Never walking in says I don't need you at all. And I don't need you is the most terrifying sentence in business. It means your leverage is worth nothing. When you've built your identity around being the greatest dealmaker and someone refuses to deal with you, you don't just lose a negotiation. You lose the framework that makes you relevant. No deal. No art. Asterisk, the fallout is cascading. Auto manufacturers warn of shutdowns as supply chains fracture with no process to restore them. Energy companies warn of heating spikes across every northern border state. The housing industry projects lumber shortages, adding $20,000 to $30,000 to every new home. And the anger is directed not at Ottawa, but at the White House. Industries don't blame Carney. They blame the administration that made negotiation pointless. Congressional Republicans in border states are breaking ranks. But it may no longer be enough. The diversification is real. The new economic architecture is being built in real time, and it does not include the United States. Other nations are watching. The EU, the UK, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, all absorbing the lesson that refusing to negotiate with the United States is now a viable option. Canada created a precedent, a proof of concept that saying no to America may be the smarter play. And precedents spread fast. Asterisk, Trump proposed a grand bargain. Carney said no, not to the terms, but to the process itself. Canada fired back with permanent tariffs, energy restrictions, mineral controls, a diplomatic downgrade, and accelerated diversification with every major economy except the one next door. Trump panicked. His advisors admitted they never saw it coming. Buffett called it the most powerful move in negotiation history. The willingness to never walk in. How long can the United States sustain tariffs when Canada has stopped trying to get them removed? Will other nations follow? What do you do when the other side doesn't need you, has built the architecture to prove it, and has told the world your word isn't worth the paper it's printed on? Trump built his presidency on the art of the deal.